Tonight on the Sunday Evening Crier, a sit-down with Chickasha Mayor Zach Grayson covering economic development, TIF districts, and a city charter change. Welcome back. I'm Garrett Jackson with the Lawton Town Crier. From time to time, we step outside Lawton to look at how other Oklahoma cities are dealing with challenges similar to the ones we face here at home, and with what lessons might translate back here. This interview is presented in full and unedited and was recorded on location at Dragoon Graphics in Chickasha. A brief note to viewers. This conversation took place before R.J. Davis was reported missing and was later found. Chapters and relevant links will be included in the description. And if you like everything, please be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. And now, my interview with Chickasha Mayor Zach Grayson. Okay. Good afternoon, Zach. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having us up at your business location. Tell us about where we're at right now.
So right now we're at one of the businesses that I co-own. It's called Dragoon Graphics, and it's where we make custom apparel, embroidery, screen print, things like that for either businesses or one of my other businesses, Two Vets Clothing, which is a graphic apparel shop.
Awesome. So being a business owner here in the Chickasha community, you have a vested interest in what goes on in the community. And you have been posting online on Facebook, and that's where I discovered you're also the mayor of Chickasha. Is that correct?
That's correct, yep.
Okay. So living here in Chickasha, let's talk a little bit about the town. What do you think is the best thing about Chickasha that you would tell people looking at Southwest Oklahoma?
The best thing about Chickasha, its number one commodity is going to be its people. Our community is not unlike any other as far as the camaraderie and the community that comes together to help push ourselves forward.
Okay. Now, as a small business owner, Chickasha has for a number of years had the Chickasha Lights that people come from all parts of Southwest Oklahoma, the state of Oklahoma, North Texas, and around the world, really. How do you see that impacting your community?
So to me, the Chickasha Festival of Light is the epitome of what happens when citizens just have an idea, they get together, they follow through with an idea. This wasn't anything the city did, this wasn't anything an organization did. This was individuals that got together, had this idea, put it together, and now we're on our 33rd year. So, I mean, that's just a testament to what the willpower of what citizens can do if they put their mind to it and execute.
Awesome. Now, one of the things about citizens that we talked about briefly before you accepted the interview is one of the things I wanted to talk about is the lamp, the very large lamp and the lawsuit that is around that. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on with that? Why is it important and how it impacts the community?
I sure can, and you know, I have two different opinions depending upon whether I got my mayor hat on or my citizen hat on, and I'll tell you both. But the thing about the lamp, do I necessarily love it? Absolutely not. I could care less what it is, but it works. It brings people to town. It is a tourism driver, and me as a business owner and as a mayor, that's what's important to me, because not only does it help my business, it helps other small businesses in town. Anytime we can get influx of new people into the community to spend money is a win for everybody in the community, in my opinion. If you haven't, have you seen the documentary on it, the Fragile documentary?
For this conversation, I have looked at it. I have not studied it in depth.
It's really good. Reagan Elkins is who produced it. He's a local movie producer here, and he did a really good job staying neutral. I mean, it shows both sides, whether you love it or you hate it. It is portrayed in both sides of that documentary. I mean, he shows council meetings, he shows people that are against it, what they have to say, people are for it, what they have to say, people that don't really care what they have to say. So anyway, that's a really good snapshot of kind of what the community was going through during that time. But again, as the mayor and what I want for my community, I just want people to walk away with a positive vision of Chickasha. And the overwhelming response I get when I ask people, especially the out-of-towners that come and check it out, they like it. That's why they came. They pulled off the highway. They came from all over the country. They've come from overseas just to come check it out and to highlight Chickasha in a positive way, whether it be a giant lamp or the world's largest Cheeto statue. It doesn't matter to me as long as they come.
Okay. Now, my understanding that there was a lawsuit involved with trying to take that down. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I sure can, and I will speak from an arm's length away just because the city of Chickasha is not involved in that whatsoever. The land that it sits on, the city does not own. The organization that put it up has no connection with the city. So we're there, but more of just an observatory, right? But it's from what I'm understanding is Warner Brothers sent the organization that put the leg lamp up a cease and desist letter. That organization responded with their own information, and to my understanding, it's never been brought up again. Warner Brothers has not reached back out. No movement has happened on any kind of legal action or anything like that.
Okay. Well, would you say that any type of news is good business for Chickasha? Because I've come up from Lawton, we're talking about this. Apparently it is something that people are talking about. Do you see that as a positive impact on the city?
I think so. I've said this before and I'll say it again, whether you love it or hate it, you come to see it. And if you come to see it, you may stop at a local business, you may buy a tank of gas, you may go to a local Walmart, you may help my sales tax base, which helps my community. So love it or hate it, you come to see it, and I think it impacts the community positively either way.
Awesome. Now, you mentioned real quick about the sales tax and sales tax base. Currently in the Lawton area, they're using tax increment financing to fund different things within the community. Is Chickasha looking at anything like that within its community?
Yes, we actually have two current TIFs going on. One in our downtown area and then one out east of town from the first exit off the turnpike in towards town. The only one that is currently active is the downtown TIF. It was activated last year. We are proposing a third TIF area out at our Chickasha Airport Industrial Park, which has been purchased by a private developer and is on the cusp of actually being developed. It sit there for over 30 years with grass. Now we're actually having some movement where manufacturing will come to town, which brings new jobs, new opportunity for our citizens.
And that's something very similar to what the city of Lawton was looking at as far as using the TIFs. What has your overall experience been with the city using TIFs? Has it been a positive? Has it been negative? Have you run into any issues with the TIF process?
So I think TIFs can be useful, but they can also be negative. It depends on how they're set up and how they're applied, right? So the only TIFs that I have any experience with is a TIF that is a pro forma based TIF, right? So if a developer comes in, and we don't have any developers or anything that we've actually have contracts with right now. So this is all hypothetical, right? So the way we will apply the use of the TIF funds is if a developer comes to us and says, hey, I have this idea, I need help on the infrastructure, et cetera, right? And we'll say, okay, that's fine. We'll help with X amount. Well, they have to perform. They have to bring new business in. They have to create new sales tax. There has to be that money collected before it gets paid out. So it's more of a pro forma base. It's not just here's a blank check, use it how you want to, right? You have to create the money to get reimbursed. And that's how our downtown TIF is applied. That's how the TIF before it was my time here, there were actually interurban SIDs. They're just, what is that, south of the Walmart there. That whole area was a TIF area that Jimmy's Eggs at, Interurban's at, Tractor Supply. That TIF got embroiled in some legal battles and got drawn out till the TIF actually expired. But the infrastructure that was put in paved the way for the Starbucks you see now, the buildings that McAllister's and Wingstop's going into, Walgreens, all that stuff over there. That was paved, the way was paved for those by that initial TIF that was, I want to say it was circa 2010. Those are the only TIFs I know of that have been involved in the Chickasha area.
Now, working with TIFs, one of the things that a lot of the viewers that watch my podcast will know is that it involves taxation, not just sales tax, but with ad valorem tax and all that. Do your TIFs work with ad valorem tax?
Absolutely, yes. And so that is the key reason that I believe the city of Chickasha, we even look at TIFs, because I don't know, not everybody knows this, but I'm sure you do. Municipalities receive no ad valorem tax. I know that that's a common misconception, that people think, the taxes they pay for their property, that the city receives a portion of that. They absolutely do not. Municipalities really only operate, actually not really, they do only operate off sales tax revenue and some sales and use tax. But ad valorem, Other than in a TIF increment financing district, the city has no opportunity to collect any ad valorem.
Now, working with the county, for my viewers who don't know, Chickasha is in Grady County, is that correct? How do you work with the county when it dealing with a TIF and the ad valorem tax? Are they on board with a lot of what y'all want to do here in the city?
Yes, we have a very good working relationship with Grady County, from the county commissioners to the sheriff to everybody involved. It hasn't always been the case, but over the last decade, our partnership is wonderful. So yes, actually the first step in when you're creating a TIF is you have to have a council made up of all the taxing entities. So the county's represented, the school district's represented, the ambulance districts represented, all the different entities that get a slice of that ad valorem tax sit on this commission, and they actually recommend the provisions of the TIF to the city council, right? And this last TIF and the ones before it, we've had unanimous votes for the TIF to proceed to go to the city council for consideration. So all the taxing entities have been on board with the TIFs that have been proposed so far.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to pause the recording. Sorry, I had to pause because I was going to cough or sneeze, and I didn't want to have to try to edit that.
I've been holding
later.
mine in. No, I'm kidding.
So dealing with TIFs, I know that there are certain things that you have to do, and there's a time limit on that. So my understanding is TIFs are typically 25 years, and that's what the time limit is to get that taken care of as far as the money. Is that correct?
That is the maximum a TIF can occur. Now, I don't want to misspeak, but from when you actually create the TIF to when you activate it, there can be a lag there. And then that's when you actually activate the TIF is when that 20, 25 years time starts ticking, right? So you have, I think, up to 10 years maybe to actually activate the TIF. And then depending upon how the TIF was approved, it could be, like you said, up to 20, 25 years from the activation date. So it could technically drag on for 30 something plus years, unactivated for 10, activated for 25. And again, I may be misspeaking a little bit on the time frame, but that's close to how it actually operates.
Now, you mentioned a second ago that the TIF that y'all had before has already run through its course. Is that correct?
It's correct. That TIF is no longer.
Okay. Were there any other type of structures that y'all looked at besides TIFs to do some of this improvement here in the community? Because from a out-of-towner coming in, it appears to me that Chickasha has really done a lot of growing beyond what you mentioned with that particular TIF area.
Yeah, so we just recently did a tax abatement with one of the developers to where the old TIF was. And so basically we agreed to, share X amount of the sales tax revenue if they hit benchmarks, meaning they brought in X amount of big box stores in a certain time frame. So they had to perform to generate that tax money before there was even anything to share with them. So that's another technique that we've used is tax abatement. But our biggest thing in our community, to me, if you're going to ask me the one single biggest factor of why we're, pedal to the metal right now is our community image. We are so positive right now. We went from a self-loathing community to a self-loving community. And that was the biggest driving force, in my opinion, to why we're seeing the progress that we are, because people want to be here. We live in America, and winners want to do business and be where winners are at. And right now, Chickasha's winning.
Awesome. Now, are there any type of projects that are coming up that people in Lawton or Oklahoma City or around the state might be interested in knowing to maybe plan a visit here or maybe expand their own business into Chickasha?
Yeah, so we already talked a little bit about the Chickasha Airport industrial area. That, if you have a manufacturing business, that would be a hard look. I know they're doing a lot of good things out there. It's right next to Municipal Airport, easy in and out for transportation. And again, we're right here. The turnpike runs right by us. You can be down in Texas or up north, in just a few hours, either direction you want to go. As far as what we have coming, we have big box retailers announce they're coming. Burlington, which I know that Lawton pretty much has all this stuff, and so does Oklahoma City, but if they want to fight traffic, just want to come down here for the day. Yeah, Burlington, Ulta, TJ Maxx, Five Below, Pet Sense or PetSmart, whichever one we don't have currently. I know it's not big news for Oklahoma City or Lawton, but we are getting a McAllister's and a Wingstop. A lot of people are happy about that. Nothing like a good soup and sandwich.
Well, and you also have a Cotton Patch, is something we don't have in Lawton.
Well, actually, they just closed.
Oh, they just closed.
They just closed.
Well.
And I say that, and I'm excited for these restaurants, and I say that, and knowing that I'm a restaurant owner myself, but I'm not afraid of competition. I know that, when you drive down the interstate, wherever you're traveling, you look at the exits, restaurants are usually clustered, right? And that's for a reason. Options breed business, business breeds success.
We had lunch at a little diner down here the street, Carol's.
Mama Carol's.
Mama Carol's, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was excellent, very well priced. I mean, I was very surprised at how low priced and excellent food. My wife and I and my son enjoyed it a whole lot. And those types of hole-in-the-wall places are places we like to go visit when we go to a new town. And that we like to support local as well. Let's talk a little bit about upcoming plans within the state of Oklahoma and elections coming up. Recently, the state enacted a law that went active on January 1st about specific voting days. I put out a daily crier that said it was like 5 different months that they're going to have voting days. Is that going to impact y'all at all, given how y'all run your elections for the city?
Not really, because we have elections every year. Half the council is up every other year, and then the mayor, obviously. So we're on 2-year cycles.
Okay.
And that's really the only time we run elections is when, I don't think we've even had another item on the city election for approval besides this one coming up. We do have a city charter change that we're proposing on there.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so basically what we're wanting to do is tie the city manager's spending approval to the state statute level. Because right now, I believe per charter, it's stuck at like $3,500. And I don't know if you've ever tried to repair a water main or a water valve and only be able to spend $3,500. It's impossible. So it's not to spend any more money, it's just to get those emergency repairs and stuff like that done faster, because otherwise you have to call a special council meeting or you have to wait 2 weeks till the next council meeting happens. It's really just to be able to serve the citizens faster and more adequately. It's not about, I know a lot of people are going to see it, well, if they increase their spending, they're just going to waste more. Totally valid concern. But it's not what we're talking about. We're talking about things that have to happen, emergency repairs, stuff like that.
I get it. Now, given that you're speaking to a podcast that's on the internet, is there anything you want to just kind of put out there to everybody in the state and different communities around, just as even to your own constituents, just a little statement if somebody were to give you some time to say whatever you want?
Yeah, so I one thing that's near and dear to me is, I spent 12 years in the Army. 12 years in the Army, and I loved serving my country. And so when I got out, I was looking for that way to serve again. And that's kind of how I fell into city council. I attended a program here in Chickasha that we have. It's called Chickasha Leadership. And basically it's like a 6 months course. You go one day a month, and you visit different areas in the community, meet different city leaders, meet different organization leaders. You find out what's available in your community as far as resources and things like that. But really it's a networking thing. We went to a city council meeting. I said, this is interesting. Never been involved in politics before, never even been to a council meeting. I did that, went to 4 or 5, and I said, you know what? I think this is my calling. I think this is the way I can give back. I can continue to serve. Ran an election, got elected, been on it ever since. I want people to communicate with me. I live on 20th Street. I live in a 1,100 square foot home. I am a small business owner. I work 80 hours a week, just like most people out there. I am one of the citizens, just like everybody else, and I want people to come and talk to me. I know that sometimes they feel like, oh, well, you can't talk to the mayor, you can't talk to council, they don't listen, they don't do this, they don't do that. And that may be true in some municipalities. Here in Chickasha, I know for a fact it's not. I know that because my phone rings constantly, and I'm happy it does. I get phone calls all the time. I talk to citizens constantly. I meet people. I'll meet them out where they're having an issue. Just give me that face-to-face communication, or on the phone, or an email, or something. Reach out to your elected officials. They're there for a reason. They want you to contact them so they know what's going on. And I know that there's that preconceived notion, there's a barrier there. And in some municipalities there might be. I'm not saying it's not going to happen elsewhere. But I know here in Chickasha and on the state level, I know some of the state reps and senators, and they want to hear from their constituents. So reach out, face-to-face communication, on the phone communication. That's how we get things done. That's how this country was founded, was talking to one another in a civil way.
Awesome. Now, that brings up something I forgot to ask about earlier. One of the reasons why I reached out to speak with you is I had received in my Facebook feed, you had posted some stuff and you had received some anonymous letters, which, I mean, everybody can speak out and stuff like that. And as somebody who's in the news, you know, anonymous sources are great, but, you know, there's that intent behind things. Do you
Yeah.
get a lot of anonymous letters and complaints and stuff like that?
No, I really don't. Maybe 3 in the last 8 years. So, and I know I kicked the hornet's nest when I posted that. And truth be told, it was intentional. I wanted to spark conversation. I wanted that dialogue. I wanted the pros and the cons. I wanted to see what people thought about it. To me, in this case, in the letter, there was nothing criminal or civil violations alleged. It was basically a letter, just for lack of a better word, talking smack, right, about different employees of the city, which is fine. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. But the reason it got me is because it talked about several things about the city manager and employees, but gave no way to actually, let's have a conversation. Okay, well, you said this. Where'd you get it from? Or where can I go look at this so I can take it to the proper authorities or the proper channel? You know, this anonymous letter gave no way to be contacted, no way to follow up, and no way for further information. So it rendered that letter with what was in it, without context or substance, a dead end. It was, for lack of a better word, it was useless the way it was done. That's why I'm a proponent of let's talk. You know, I know that not everybody's going to trust me. I know that sometimes anonymous is a great way to report information. I mean, Crime Stoppers, things like that. Anonymous is the way that works, and that's great. But if you want something actually done about something that city related that's not a criminal violation or a civil violation, it's just something you want me to look into, I have to have an avenue to get more information or context from anybody. And so that was the point of that post, was really to start that dialogue, like, hey, if I want to do something, but if you give me nothing but just unsubstantiated, with out of context comments, there's nothing I can do with that, unfortunately.
Now I'm going to show my amateur status here because I'm jumping all over the place with questions, and I know for people who are looking for a polished podcast that, you know, they'd have an outline and I don't. I'm just kind of going with the flow here. You mentioned a second ago about Crime Stoppers and crime, and that's not something we have touched on about Chickasha. Can you tell us a little bit about crime in this area?
Yeah, I mean, we have it just like every community does. I mean, we have our fair share of, I don't know, what's the correct term for it, unhoused, right? We have our fair share of those. We have our fair share of people that are, you know, using other people's property to fund their nefarious activities, just like every community in Oklahoma does, across the nation does. We have a great police force that tries its best to stay ahead of things. We have a great relationship with our sheriff's department, who helps us out anytime we ask. You know, it all comes down to funding. You know, we need more police officers. We need them to be on the road more, but we also have to have the sales tax base to support hiring more officers, or giving the ones we have pay raises.
Do you all have a large gang problem here in Chickasha?
Not that I'm aware of. I'm sure we do, but it's not, as far as large, I mean, I'm sure there's gangs here, but it's not. We're having the federal holdovers here in Grady County. I know some of that follows them, but it's not something that I see or even is reported to me on a regular basis that we have an issue. I know that having the turnpike next here, you know, drugs are a concern. Obviously, the transportation coming up and down the turnpike and things like that, our proximity to I-35 and those big, you know, hubs that they use to transport that stuff. But our main thing here is, you know, the unhoused and, you know, people stealing lawnmowers and breaking into homes and grabbing what they can to go pawn it to get their next fix type of stuff.
Now, Governor Stitt has taken on the homeless, unhoused issue recently, and in fact, down in Lawton, he has even mentioned our Mayor Booker and what's going on down in Lawton. What are you all doing to help address the homeless population here in Chickasha?
Yeah, so we, as a city, we frankly just don't have the resources to have a shelter or anything like that. So we rely heavily on our organizations here in town. We have what's called a community alliance, and it's a group of organizations, churches, things of that nature, the soup kitchen, that get together, and we lean heavily on their expertise on how to handle the unhoused or the people that are almost unhoused that need those kind of assistance, because they're the ones that are in the trenches with them. They know their needs better than we do as a city. And like I said, we don't have the funds. No municipality besides the big ones, maybe Tulsa, Oklahoma City, things like that, have the funds to truly attempt to handle the homeless situation. Because from what I see, nobody's come up with the perfect answer, right? There's a bunch of people are trying things, and that's great, but that magic bullet hasn't been found yet. And so we rely heavily on our community partners to do what we can to try to help the people that are in need.
You mentioned resources to help those who need the hand up, and makes me think for a second there, going back to the taxing issue and you wanting to, of course, hire more police officers, and this municipality not getting ad valorem taxes except for when you're dealing with a TIF. Oklahoma recently removed the sales tax portion from the state on purchasing of food in Oklahoma, moving more towards what Texas does and other states. Do you see that helping, hurting communities like Chickasha that are growing? And do you think that we'll see at some point across the state of Oklahoma a complete removal of sales tax on food items?
Well, let me say this. Being a business owner myself, I don't enjoy taxes, right? I wish that we didn't have to pay them, but however, I understand the reason they're there, right? I like roads. I like the police to show up when I call them. I like the fire department to come put my house out when it's on fire. I like EMS showing up. So I understand why we have taxes. The state's removal of their portion of the sales tax on food, that doesn't really bother me, because it doesn't affect Chickasha whatsoever. What will affect Chickasha whatsoever if they make us remove our portion on food, because we do rely a lot solely on sales tax, and having a Walmart here in town and other grocery stores, Homeland, things like that, we sell a lot of food in town, so that's a lot of sales tax that we'd be missing out on, which means less police we could have, less fire, things like that, because you have to adjust the budget somehow. I don't have if I had the way to fix the sales tax and find that balance, but if you look at Texas, yeah, they don't have sales tax on that kind of stuff, but what's their ad valorem rate compared to ours? It's way higher, extremely high. So I don't know if that's the way to go. I honestly don't have that. That's way above my pay grade. As long as Chickasha's doing good, that's where I'm focused right now.
Well, and honestly, what you've asked for is a conversation. These conversations, even if you don't have a good answer or an answer, it's a conversation that needs to be had.
Well, I know that Governor Stitt has set the pathway to zero income tax, and I believe they're banking on sales and use tax increasing. More productivity, more business, and it'll help offset that. So that's how they're going to balance their coffers that way. On a municipal level, that model I don't think will work for us anyway. It may for some of the bigger ones, but it wouldn't work for us.
I understand. Well, Zach, thank you for your time today. A couple real quick questions. Was this a good experience for you being on the podcast today?
Yeah, I think so. I got a face for radio, so I feel bad for all the viewers out there.
I do too. I have a face for radio and a voice for silent films. But would you like to come back on the show in the future? Maybe if you come down to Lawton for a visit, we can get together and kind of update people on how things are going? Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. I think a good thing once you get up and running would be, have a couple different municipal leaders on there and have kind of like a panel, if you will.
Awesome. We've tried to do some stuff like that in the past, and we're looking at trying to expand a little bit in the future on that.
Yeah.
Well, Zach, thank you very much for having us, and we appreciate it. And you're about ready to have a little event here at your business. You want to plug that real quick, even though this will come out after that event?
Yeah. So what I like to do is I've dubbed it Dr. Pepper with the Mayor. So this will be my third one, and I just invite the entire community out to. I think I've done it I did it at the park. I did it at a local restaurant. Now I'm doing it here in my business, and it's an unscripted, no agenda, no talking points. You can come and voice your concern. If you just want to cuss at me for a few minutes, come on out. It's no holds barred. Anything's on the table. Anything the community related you want to talk about, we have that conversation.
That's awesome. Zach, again, thank you for having us. You've been a wonderful host, and we look forward to talking with you again in the future.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.